Hi everybody, hope you're doing great. Today I'm checking out Too Fancy, Too Furious Wine by the Internet Historian. I've already reacted to his theater episode and it was just a crazy good time, so I'm checking out this one as well.
Come here, little fella. I want to tell you a secret. I'm just like you.
Really?
We're both down here in the dirt. Mine just happens to be important.
Made in Italy.
You are fighting in traffic, and I am fighting charges of trafficking. We're so similar. You're working a 9-to-5 job, and I am having to look at that. We're both going through it.
Okay.
So don't hate me. I'm not the problem. It's the wine snobs. They're the ones that look down on you. And frankly, I don't blame them.
What?
No, he's learning. Listen, let me pull you up by your bootstraps. What if I made you my little Pygmalion?
What's that?
That's a reference that you wouldn't get. You know what?
Sorry.
Perhaps I shall make a series of videos that will give you some sort of clue about fancy things. Yes, that's what I'll do. Something to give you just enough information to bluff your way through a fancy dinner.
Okay.
Did you know that Da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa?
Somebody had to hold open
Da
the gates
Vinci.
for the barbarians. Why not me? So let's do it. Let's look at wine.
Why? First of all, I really like his intros. They're always kind of, at your face, he's pointing a finger, but I'm not even mad. He's doing a good job here. When it comes to wine, I don't really know too much, so I guess I will be learning a few things here. What I do know about wine is there's red wine, white wine, black wine? I mean, in our country we call it black, but I guess that's red wine. I'm not really sure. Sauvignon? What else? Like Merlot? Something like that. Those are just some of the names. I don't even know what they are. I know that there are like dry wines and I guess wet wines. So yeah, I definitely need, some information about this. So, Internet Historian, do be my guide and teach me something.
The Mountain Dew of upper society. With wine, there is only one rule. Kill or be killed.
What?
And if you want to survive the night, here are 6 things you should know about wine.
Okay. Let's go. Not
To
about
you
killing anybody.
muggles, the words on these bottles must seem like a mystery.
Pie not no ire?
No.
But us landlords, we, the pink Himalayan salt of the earth, we know what they mean.
Sauvignon,
They are
Rosé.
grape names.
Oh, okay.
Look upon this grapevine. It makes grape berries. Now, there are many different species of grape berry.
Okay. That's
And whatever the berry species is will determine the type of wine. This is Chardonnay, so it will make Chardonnay. Merlot.
makes sense. Merlot or Merlot. Technically, it's a little more complicated. I can't read what's happening here. But I guess I'm just gonna have to believe in what he says. So, Merlot.
Grapes, they make Merlot wine.
Merlot.
Grape names are mostly French. Gross. But for example, in English, Pinot Noir means black pine.
Black pine.
Kinda looks like a black pine cone, if you squint. Here's some of the other names. You can pause it. I'm busy.
Okay, so some of them I knew. Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, essentially means little blackbird. Shiraz, I haven't heard of that. Also called Syrah, sort of. It's complicated, named after a city in present-day Iran. Chardonnay, I think. So some of them I've heard. Most of them I haven't. Like in my country, there are things like Żyłówka that probably nobody heard here. But my brother is kind of an expert on wine, so I'm going to send him this video after it's finished, so he's going to probably laugh his ass off because I don't know too much about it.
Wine grapes are not like the kind you get at the supermarket. Those are table grapes.
Okay.
You can think of it kind of like the difference between cooking chocolate and regular chocolate. You can eat them. Ugh. But they're overly sugary and kind of full of seeds and just not as nice to snack on.
Okay.
So the grape type is the main word on the bottle, but sometimes there are other words as well. For example,
Shocking.
this Bourgogne. What the hell is a Chablis?
What the
It's
hell
all
it is?
regions.
Oh.
Allow me to explain. through the medium.
Okay, so another thing, regions, okay, that makes sense. And there are mixtures of wine as well. So I don't think that all of wine, I'm pretty sure, is not just made of one type of grapes. So there are mixtures like of, for example, I don't know, rosé is some sort of a red wine or kind of pinkish wine. I don't know, there are some mixtures of these that are basically Sauvignon and, I don't know what I'm talking about. Let me just watch this. He knows better than I do. He made this video for me, so, I'm one of these peasants that doesn't know anything.
Of song. There's Chianti and Piedmont, and also there's Burgundy. Don't forget Chablis Bordeaux. This one's from Italy, this one's from Italy, this one's from France, this one's from France, this one's from France, this one's from France. They're all from France. We're Italy. Look, the general rule is, if you see a term you don't understand, it's probably just the French or the Italians being la-dee-da about their particular region. All right, let's move on to price. Come on, I know a place.
You know a place.
We're here. I can tell by the name on the sign.
Liquor
Now,
store.
don't embarrass me, I didn't bring my ID. Fiddle-TD, look at all these bottles. So many options. Ooh, a cheeky $200 bottle. And here, a $20 bottle. Now, I bet this $200 bottle tastes way better, right? Like it's got to be 10 times better than this one. That's just basic math.
Yeah.
Go on, though. You choose one. Oh, no. Well,
me
it's supposed to be a trick question, but they both taste pretty similar, right? There's not some threshold that you get to where it gets more expensive, and then it tastes better, and then more expensive again, and it tastes even better.
Okay, one thing that I do know about wines is that the amount of time that it takes for the grapes to fermentate, I think that's the word. And not only that, but a lot of these wines are like left in basements and in dark places, and every now and then just like turning the bottle a bit so it kind of gets this flavor. So I guess the more time that it spends in the basement or in a cooler or something like that, the more expensive it's going to be. And that's why we have like the year numbers on bottles of wine. So the older the number of the year, I don't know, from 1980s, I don't know, 1950s or maybe even sooner, that should mean that the wine is more expensive, but only under the circumstance that it has never been opened. If it was opened, then of course it's going to be bad. Even if it's open like maybe a year ago, and if it stands open for a year, then it's not really good. But I don't know. Again, I'm talking a bit just like thinking about these things. So I'm watching this and I'm trying to figure out, do I actually know anything about wine before he says.
Until it gets so expensive and so incredible that it's like nothing you've ever had before. Break through the conditioning. This is just old grape juice.
Okay.
Now, if you're a little bi-curious about a more expensive bottle, sure, why not?
Gold letters grace the label, hand engraved by goldsmiths. Famed wine
Goldsmiths.
critics described the taste as mind-boggling.
But realistically, after about $60, the flavor doesn't get much better. In fact, it plateaus out and it can even go down.
So this reminds me of, let's say, microphones. Like I'm a musician and I do recordings and stuff like that. So there is a threshold, like maybe about, I would say, $400. And I'm not even kidding. Let's say 500 just to make it round. So after that threshold, the difference between the microphones that are very good is really, really minimal. So you can have a $2,000 microphone, you can have a $10,000 microphone. It's very hard, if even possible, to distinguish these small nuances. Very hard. But there is a clear difference if you're buying a, I don't know, $50 microphone and $500 microphone. That's audible to anybody's ear, basically. But, after that threshold of $500, like, it's all fair game.
Best quality to price ratio is all the way over here, much lower, about $20. That's how much you should spend on a bottle of wine. Now, some people will
Gonna remember
say
that I'm putting my heart and soul into this thing. I'm making a form of art. How much is that worth? How much is art worth?
about $20.
I like this guy. I love his satire so much. So, you just told me that I should never buy a bottle of wine that's more expensive than $20. That's the first takeaway that I had from this video. The biggest takeaway.
But what about the Vintage?
Vintage.
Well, look at this. a couple of cromulent slender necks.
Okay.
And they're the same price as well.
But different
But
year.
this one is from 2019, and this one is from 2022.
So let's see if my
Well.
logic.
Surely the older one is the better one, right?
Maybe.
No. Many people think that the wine aging goes like this, and the flavor just keeps getting better over time.
Okay.
Wrong. The
Teach
wine
me.
at the store has already been aged at the winery.
Okay.
I don't need to be more aged by sitting on this shelf and just collecting dust, or spending years at the back of your pantry at home.
Especially because that's not the best place to sit down. So as I said, I think it always sits in a darker place in a basement and very cool place. So if you were to just take it out on your kitchen table and leave it like that for a year, it's definitely not gonna do it any good. And not only that, like wherever you leave it, if it's not properly like placed and taken care of, it's probably just gonna go bad.
If I'm for sale, I'm ready to be consumed. I'm ready to have your hot lips wrapped around me.
Okay.
In fact, the general rule goes a corked bottle should be drunk within 5 years and a capped bottle within 1 year.
Really?
Come,
Interesting.
there's more. Let's pretend I am a waiter at a restaurant. You happen to be wearing a shirt, and so I have mistaken you as a paying customer. As a waiter, the first thing I will press you about will be food pairings.
Okay.
White wine with fish? A Merlot with pork? Well, kid, I'm gonna have to pair this truth nugget with something you don't want to hear.
What?
The food pairing doesn't really matter.
What?
It's all completely subjective.
What? I was always taught that like fish goes with white wine, red meat, and like steaks go with red wine. So I guess it can be subjective. It makes sense, but still, I'm shocked by this. I'm generally shocked by this. I wanna learn more.
It's cuisine by horoscope. It's food astrology.
Okay.
Pay no attention to the sommeliers in the comment section. They are bullshitting to upsell.
Get the more expensive one. It goes better with the spaghetti.
Or they are a Pisces and you shouldn't trust their opinion anyway. Something else to expect at a restaurant?
I love this guy.
Expect to get ripped off by the markup. Most restaurants add a 250 to 300% markup on their wine. And the cheaper the bottle, the higher the proportional markup tends to be.
Really?
So a $20 bottle will turn into an $80 bottle, but a $100 bottle may only rise to $150.
Huh.
Most people get the
that.
second cheapest bottle on the menu, regardless of the pairing, and that'll do just fine. And that's it. No more tips. Unless you want to leave me one.
No. I'm taking notes from this video. This is actually, educational. This guy is not just making fun videos and satire. This is actually great information.
Actually, you know what? I got a fucking tip for you, mate. Ad time.
Okay, last time a bunch of you were mad at me because I skipped the ad. This time I'm watching it. I thought that it was not really appropriate for me to, leave the ad in because I'm not associated with the thing that he is advertising. But at the same time, thinking about it more, this can only help his channel. So I'm leaving a link to the original video in the description of this video. Of course, this guy is amazing. You should check him out. But I'm also watching this ad, and a bunch of you said that the ads are the best part. So let's see.
I bet you're wondering how I got this cog in my knee. That's because I became the face of Incog, the service that helps you be forgotten on the internet.
Oh.
I used to be a humble florist. One day we received a shipment of forget-me-nots. But inexplicably I fell in and ate a bunch of them. I forgot everything that day. My address, my web browsing habits, where I worked, what my child's face looked like. I was supposed to pick him up from daycare, so that was kind of embarrassing. I just picked one of the kids that kind of looks like me.
Oui, monsieur.
Close enough. Have you ever signed up for some dodgy website? Have you ever dodged up for a legitimate website and they sell all your details onto a dodgy website? That's where I come in. Incogni man. And
Incogni.
another boy.
Je n'ai pas les onglets pas.
There are data miners out there, data collectors,
Data.
creating big servers all around the world. They take your name, your address, and your IP, and together they make a big profile, and that lives forever. I am here to send them annoying legal notices to tell them to f*** off. Take Steve, off your database. European law this. American law that. Go to incogni.com/internet store to get 60% off an annual plan. The cog signal.
Cog signal.
I swoop into the data centers. Legal notice. Tangle up their processes with admin. Who are you? I don't know. Oh, wait a minute. Inganokni Nam. Go to incogni.com/internet historian.
There's more.
Incogni man. Remember me? Yes.
NordVPN.
No. Who's the kid?
Je suis très affamé, monsieur, s'il vous plaît.
Whoa, that's a good deal. Ad over.
Oh, so he even added a VPN, NordVPN thing there. That's really brave of him. I'm like, if I was the thing that he's advertising, not sure how I would feel about adding somebody else. I mean, it's fun, it's satire, so it's okay. But it's competition, so I'm guessing, like there are some laws in some countries that would definitely go against this. But this guy just has balls of steel. So what can I say? But definitely, the ad was the most interesting part so far. Like, I might even consider joining at that Incogni thing. So yeah, crazy. I'm thinking about, like, I need to step up my YouTube game. This guy is killing it. The edits are brutal.
Welcome to the Wine Underground.
Okay.
We have our meetings here because it stays at a very pleasant temperature. You know, us wine masons, we control everything.
Wine
We are
masons.
few, but many. That doesn't make sense. Look at the back of this bottle. See the No Fat Chicks logo?
Oh, jeez.
We put that there.
No Fat
It is the
Chicks.
symbol of our organization. We have a dirty finger in every glass of government and corporation stuff. If you cross us, whoops, perhaps you'll have a little accident.
Ooh.
Last year, Little Upstart tried to make wine actually taste good. You know, like how grape soda does. Cut him up so good he had to get stitches. We caught one reporter trying to dig around into our operations. We all know how that one ended. With an airstrike. All right, my little juice box. I'm going to let you in on a secret.
Okay.
Why is champagne called champagne? Well, I'll tell you.
Because of
It all
Italy?
began in 1668. In the Abbey of St. Peter in northeast France, there's something spooky going on. It's springtime, and in the cellar where they keep all the wine, bottles would suddenly, unexpectedly, explode. Now, this was especially common during morning mass. Ho ho, that's a bad omen. Sometimes the explosions would cause little chain reactions, and bottle after bottle would break down the line.
Pharisees were often in charge of producing and storing alcohol for the village, sometimes for ceremonial purposes, example the Eucharist, but also just as a community thing and as a means of controlling the supply of alcohol. Okay?
Ruining the majority of the crop. The peasants were frightened and also parched.
Sacre Bleu, les wine. What is happening?
Sacre bleu.
The monks would refer to this as the devil's wine.
Le wine is cursed.
Le God, he must be anger at us. We need a hero.
In walks Dom Perignon. He is just the man for the job. A Benedictine monk at the abbey. He's got a new role, the cellar master. And it's his mission to find out what the hell is going on here. So Dom starts looking at all the bottles. And what he figures out pretty quickly is that the wine itself is releasing gas. The gas builds up pressure and
Explodes.
why that is happening, he doesn't know. But it's his job to stop it. So he gets to work, trying all sorts of things to stop his mortal enemy. The bubbles. In the first year, he tried insisting that only the youngest grapes be picked.
Perhaps this will stop your bubbles.
And it didn't.
And he did it.
The next year, he changed up how the grapes were pressed.
Push harder. We'll squeeze out the bubbles.
Son of a bitch. He tried picking the grapes very early in the morning and no other time. Nope. And
Why
on
would that work?
And on. The bubbles would win the battle every year. For 8 long years, he tried all sorts of different things.
So, what can be the problem? I'm not very good at this, but temperature, of course, and the way that they're maybe closed. So if there may be closed too much, and if there's one too many, stacked one on top of the other, maybe that can do something to make all of this like pop, but I'm not really sure. My guess, the biggest guess, is the temperature. That's definitely one thing. And the other thing is like the fermentation. Grapes start to fermentate even in the closed and like these basements and stuff like that. They still have some chemical reactions inside. So that doing what it does, that probably releases gas and creates these bubbles. So, but again, maybe I'm completely off. Let's see.
And no strategy worked. No, the bubbles.
The bubbles.
Eventually, he was at the point of almost giving up. Until one day, hey, what if the wine is still fermenting? So he takes a couple of the bottles and
That's
he
what I
opens
was saying.
them. It is. We ferment the wine. Once it's done, it goes into the bottle. How does it then start fermenting again? How is that possible? And here the mystery was solved. So it turns out, in North France, they have very fast-changing seasons. And owing to that, the yeast doesn't actually get time to do its job. Instead, it would get cold very quickly in the winter, and all the yeast would go dormant. Then the winemakers would go, oh, brilliant, fermentation slowed down, it must be done. They would then bottle it, and they would store it. But once summer came back around, the process would spring back to life, and carbon dioxide would build up, and... Okay, he thinks.
Okay, so this is actually very educational. I like this. I'm definitely sending this to my brother, who claims and knows a lot about wine, but I think even he will learn something new that he didn't know before.
Cannot change the climate. Perhaps I shall not win the war against the bubbles.
Okay.
Now, the bubbles are his enemy, and he has another enemy.
What are?
The English.
What?
Therefore, the enemy of his enemy or something. Anyway, he starts talking to the English, and he goes, hey, how do you guys stop your bottles from exploding? And the British go,
You what, mate? Core! Well, peep at how thin the bloody glass be in it. Thin glass is the problem. Thank you for using this text-to-speech preview. For a paid version, please go to...
See, the English have created new coal-fired bottles with much thicker glass.
Okay.
Then they put a cork in the top, and it allows them to make very foamy beer. That's right. He could just use thicker bottles, and he won't have to worry about stopping the bubbles at all.
I guess that can help, but why just not fill maybe the bottles a bit less? I'm guessing like if you fill them too much, there's definitely no room for gas, so it has to explode. But if you were even just to fill them maybe halfway to, then maybe that could work. I don't know.
So Dom goes running back to France. He's panting, he's sweating, and there's bits of brie on his shirt. He's going, better bottles, better bottles. Everyone's confused and terrified, but they give it a shot. And
does it work?
There it was. The people of France loved it.
I love this new style.
Even the French royals were enjoying new wine, TM.
Okay.
He even started adding extra yeast and sugar to really get the bubbles going. And so Dom Perignon had created what we call today champagne. Now, there's a 19th century marketing campaign that says the moment he uncorked his champagne for the first time, he tried it and said, come quickly, I am tasting the stars.
I've heard actually.
But that's actually a myth. He never really said that. But
really,
there's still a problem. And this one, Dom cannot fix. The pulp. If you bottle wine while it's still fermenting, so that you can keep the bubbles in, you're also trapping in a bunch of dead yeast and debris and gross particles too.
Okay.
Also, it's all cloudy. No, we want it clear. We want it crystal looking. How will we ever solve this problem? Dom dies.
Oh, who's gonna continue this? Who's gonna continue the work?
1805, in walks Madame Clicquot. She's just the man for the job.
She's just the man.
I have come to remove all the little beats. I will clench my teeth together and go pitu back into the bottle.
Now, Madame Clicquot was a very shrewd lady. Her husband died when she was in her early 20s.
My husband is dead.
In her early 20s.
And part of the estate she was bequeathed included a winery. She immediately got to work, making it into a successful business.
I shall invent a process called lay riddling.
Riddler.
Here's what you do, right?
Okay, so one thing that I can see from these pictures are, okay, there are different types of bottles, but there are different types of plugs. You know, there's like that plug that can kind of float in the water if you put it. So I don't see that. I don't see them using that still. And I guess that might be one of the parts in solving this problem. But again, I'm kind of, you know, this is all a pretty new thing to me, so let's continue watching.
You put these bottles on a rack at a
upside down.
35-degree angle with the top facing down. Every 2 days, she would give the bottle a little
spin.
shake
That's
and
what I was
slightly
talking about.
increase the angle. After 8 to 10 weeks, all of the sediment would come to rest in the neck of the bottle.
Oh, okay.
Quick tangent. Did you know that when you increase the salt concentration in water, you can drop its temperature down much lower without it freezing? Tangent over.
Really?
So she takes this sub-zero salt water and dips the neck of the bottle in there. Then lets it sit until the neck freezes. Now you have a sort of frozen cork filled with all of the gross pulp, and then you simply pop off the top. And the whole thing goes shooting out as a fun prank for your friends and family. Then they add in a little more extra base wine and sugar and leave it to age. And with that, Clico has just created a clear, sparkling wine. And that is Ridley. And Madame Clico is...
The Riddler.
So Dom Perignon and Madame Clico are both credited as the godfather and godmother of champagne.
So this is
Today,
champagne.
the Dom and Clique brands are owned by LVMH, the same parent company that owns Louis Vuitton, Tag Heuer, Tiffany & Co., Hennessy. Actually, pretty much every luxury brand. But
Cool.
why is it called champagne?
Isn't it because of the Italy, like some sort of place from there? I think that's, or is it French champagne? Not sure. Maybe it's French.
Well, that's because it comes from the Champagne region, you dummy.
Yeah.
And anything else with bubbles is just sparkling wine.
Okay, so one thing that I want to say about this is all about champagne. He's still not talking about how it became wine, but he's probably going to get to that right now. But there's an interesting story about beer. Let me share it with you. Somewhere like in the old days, nobody really drank beer, but these priests, I think, maybe, I'm not sure, they are both Trappists, so they created their beer, but still a lot of people didn't know about it. So when they wanted to drink it in the time of preparation for the Christmas, there are these, or is it preparation for Easter, I'm not sure. So they asked the Pope if they can drink that instead of going into fasting and stuff like that. Instead of going onto the water and bread only fast, they asked the Pope if they can just drink beer instead of that. The Pope at that time didn't know what beer is. They've sent him a big, like, I don't know, maybe bottle or even that kind of big, what's the word? I can't remember right now. But they've sent him a big sample of beer so he can try it. And because it took time for that, let's say, bottle to come to Rome and for the Pope to try it, it became bad, you know. It just didn't feel right. It wasn't the best flavor, and the Pope tried it, and he was like, "Okay, if you guys enjoy this, sure, you can drink this." But later, of course, they developed better and better beer, and that's kind of a funny story. Not really sure if it's true or if it's a myth, but it's a cool story. Let's continue watching. End of part.
Oh, it's you. I was just looking out over the sunset. You know how it is. Thinking about stuff that happened in the past. I remember it all too well. It was literally 1984.
10 years before I was born.
I was walking home with my parents from the opera.
Come on, keep up. We're nearly there.
Hey, let's take a little shortcut, they said.
Isn't this
We can cut through
Batman?
here.
We were walking down a well-lit alleyway. It was nothing but quaint restaurants and bistros.
Okay.
Then suddenly, a man holding a bottle of Shiraz came out of nowhere. "Just a tipple," he said. I was terrified. I knew nothing about wine. "Go on," he said. My hands were shaking, knees weak, arms heavy. Complex aroma, wouldn't you say? Ooh, very good tannins. Oh, really? Yep. What's a tannin? I don't know. My parents died from embarrassment right there on the spot.
Mommy! I'm sorry.
sorry, Daddy?
I guess mine
Just
would
a
die
tipple,
too.
tipple.
Because I don't know what that means.
It's too late for me, but I don't want the same thing to happen to you.
Thank you for teaching me.
That's why we have to learn about how to serve wine.
So this guy is actually saving my parents right now. I mean, how can you not love this guy? First of all, I love the Australian accent. Last time I've said it was a British accent. Mea culpa. My bad. Completely off. I mean, it is similar in some ways, but not completely. But this guy is actually saving my parents. So, hey, subscribe to him. Make sure to do that. Let's see.
So you've bought a bottle of wine to show your friends and family how successful and sophisticated you are.
I'm
Did you
becoming
know
sophisticated.
that Da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa? So let's go through how to serve the big three.
Okay.
White, red, and champagne. Let's say you've bought champagne.
Woo!
That bottle goes in the fridge. Champagne is served cold always. To open, peel off the foil and do not aim it at your face. Then twist off the metal thing.
Oof.
If you want people to think you're fancy, use the proper word, muselet.
Muselet.
It helps to
Muselet.
contain the pressure. Again, don't aim this thing at your face. It's really worth repeating.
Why
the
would you do
PSI
that?
inside a champagne bottle is 70 to 90. That puts it in the same league as a nail gun. So the cork comes out at about 50 miles an hour. And if you're in a house, you want to hold onto it very firmly with your hand. If you're Bezos, or you just won the Grand Prix, fling it over some ladies. But if you want to be really fancy, you can use a sword. This has been a tradition for a couple hundred years,
Yeah.
popularized by Napoleon. After each victory,
I'm good with just popping it and maybe not leaving a hole in the ceiling. But, you know,
the
whatever
army
works.
would use their sabers to crack one open for the boys. But the sword's just ceremonial. You can use pretty much any blunt object to knock off the top. A phone, a shoe, this fish head.
Really?
If it's cold, it shouldn't fizz over too much. But
it seems like it's broken.
you might want to have someone on the side with a ready glass.
Okay.
The glass type should either be a tulip or a flute. Although, if you've seen The Great Gatsby, you may notice that they use these. Up until the mid-1900s, people used coupes.
Okay.
That's because, back in the day, excessive effervescence wasn't very cool. So these cups helped actually dispel the bubbles faster.
So-
in fact, sometimes they'd even use a small whisk or a fork to dissipate all the bubbles.
I mean, the bubbles are the best thing, right? Like, why would they want to get rid of it? Maybe because they get you gassy and stuff, but still, bubbles. That's the whole thing.
Now, there's actually an old myth that the shape and size of the coupe was molded from one of Marie Antoinette's buboes. But it's probably not true.
Look at the size of this thing.
Eventually, bubbles became a fancy feature, so the flute was adopted.
Okay.
They can be made from glass, but preferably they're made from crystal, so that they shimmer as much as possible. And the best flutes would also feature a small rough spot right there at the center of the glass at the bottom to create a sort of tornado of bubbles. Anyway, as you pour,
So
tilt
much to
sideways
learn.
so it isn't all head, and don't pour more than 2/3 full.
Okay.
Done. White wine.
Usually, whatever I fill in, I place the bottle like that. So even when I'm sipping in beer, because I think that preserves the bubbles, and I like when it has a bit more bubbles. But when you pour a beer in just like this, all of the bubbles come up. Some people enjoy that, but I don't. I don't really.
Wine is best served chilled too.
Okay.
10 to 15 degrees though, not fridge cold. Use a small glass bowl and pour to about half full. And when you drink, do a little sniff test and, aerate it a bit. Then hold it down low on the stem so your hands don't heat up the liquid. If it's not to your taste, cut it with 50% Sprite and add a few ice cubes. Done. Reds.
Red wine.
Red wine is not chilled. It is served at room temperature. When you first open
Okay.
it, you're supposed to let it sit for a while to oxidize. That gives it more flavor. Although, if you don't want to wait, you can just pour it into a decanter. That does the same thing.
I've actually. I
To
have
drink
this,
from, we
this
want
somewhere.
a big-
Well, not me, but my father has it. So same thing. Whenever we get to the Sunday family lunch, then he sometimes uses this big bottle thing.
Bowl on a stick. So you get a full face of the aromas of the grape blood. When you pour the thing,
Jimmy Fallon.
fill it about 1/3 full. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
However, when it comes to wine snobbery, red wine snobbery is at the top of the Maslow hierarchy.
Crushed white rock. It's like almost like a rock quarry.
Oh my god, shut up. And there's a taste testing thing that people do, and they all go a bit mental, and it's kind of gross, and it looks dumb. But if you think you're ready for the ultimate test, ready to take the one-chip challenge of enology, then here's how you do it.
Okay.
When the waiter comes over, insist on taking a teensy sample. Inspect for color, clarity, and legs. Legs refers to how viscous the wine is. Smell it. Smells like a red wine. Swirl it around on the table, making
There was this story, like somebody was trying to be all fancy and went into a cool restaurant, and the waiter asked him, like, what do you think? Which wine? What do you think about this wine? And I don't know, he poured him some of the red wine, and he was like, he was spinning it like this, took a sip, spit it out, and said, yeah, this is red wine. And that's basically all of my knowledge before this video. Not all, but pretty much all. But now I know a bit more. So this, again, I'm saying, although it's satire and it's funny, this is actually educational. I've learned quite a few things.
loud scratching noise so that everyone knows you're a connoisseur.
Swirling the wine glass is almost like turning up the volume on the stereo.
When you taste it, you're supposed to get it over every part of your mouth, so that when you brush your teeth later, it's awful. Then take in big sips of air. This is where you comment on the texture and taste. Complex notes! You yell across the room. Now this is the best part. You can just make shit up about vanilla smatterings or citrusy undercurrents. I swear, there's a hint of blueberry. It's one of those things that's kinda true, but subjective enough that no one can really refute you. So make a big show of it.
There is a little bit of an earthiness, almost a graphite clay note to this.
It's a little bit meaty, it's a little bit sort of rustic.
There are definitely hints here of Monster Ultra sugar-free. If this is a taste
Monster Ultra sugar-free. How does he come up with this stuff? This is incredible.
And you're sampling dozens of wines. You want to spit out the sample into this gross bucket so you don't get too drunk. Do not ask the waiter if you can drink from the bucket. It's the waiter's privilege, and he's very protective of it.
One thing that he didn't mention so far, and I don't think he will mention, is you shouldn't really mix wines when you're drinking. Like, if you want to drink, especially if you want to get drunk, try just sticking to one type of wine, because, you know, either just drink white wine or red wine, because really mixing it, trust me from experience, not a good idea. There was this one New Year's party where I was drinking everything else, like, I don't know, liquor from cherry and stuff like that, and beer and stuff, and all of my friends were pretty, you know, drunk already, and I was pretty okay. I was feeling happy and stuff like that, but I wasn't feeling like too dizzy or anything. So I was thinking like, what's wrong with me? Everybody's already a bit, you know, like, whee! But I wanted to be a bit like intoxicated, not too much, but then I just took all of the wine that we had on the table. There was red wine and white wine, and I just started drinking it. Man, in the matter of minutes, I was dead. I was like throwing up, and I didn't know who I was.
Who are you? I don't know. Go to incogni.com/internet historian. Okay, that's a lot of shitting on wine, people.
And we shouldn't get bullied.
But let me do a quick 180. Because overall, wine is good. And a little wine snobbery can be good also.
A little.
Being into wine is one of the great dad hobbies.
Moms
One
are
day
invited
you will
to.
have a model train set in your basement, complete with a little walking path and the grass just right. The best part about this hobby is building the thing, getting it just perfect, and then making people sit there while you explain the little trains in excruciating detail of how they work.
This guy's definitely
Have
going to
fun
be a
of
dad.
Warhammer. That's when you save up for the little space marine man, you take him out of the packet, you put on a podcast with some Warhammer in the background.
Of all the Primarchs, Horus is the best kisser.
And you slowly paint it yourself. And then you argue with your mates later about why the Necrophiles are the best race. There are people that spend like tens of thousands of dollars on coffee machines and equipment. And then it takes like an hour to make a coffee, and it's like only 5% better maybe than the ones you get at the cafe. Now, I could be Mr. Killjoy and come in and go, what's the point of that? Why not just buy it from the cafe? Why not just get a pre-painted Space Marine? Why not have someone else just install the train set? But then there's no ceremony, there's no fun, there's no hobby.
True.
Wine is very similar. They're getting a little bit too obsessive about the thing and being like...
Some lemon zest as well, lemon pith. Super tangy.
Is the purpose of wine. It's the fun of wine, which is why wine is better than just some old grape juice. And you fucking wine loser snobs, you know what? You're all right.
You're all right. But there's more. He always says the end, but there's more.
And that's about it. There's just one last thing left. The practical. Come on, my little nouveau biche. I booked out a whole restaurant. They serve some of the best blue whale caviar here. All right, you did it. You sat through the whole video without crying. I think this calls for a toast. Steady now.
What?
Uh-oh.
End the video. End the video.
I can't believe you killed again. But it's okay. I feel like we're becoming close friends who can keep secrets and stuff.
Sure. I'm definitely not
we're
gonna
such close friends,
post this
I'm
on
gonna
my
keep
channel.
teaching you things. That's right. You're gonna be just like me.
I'm gonna be fancy.
I just cannot tell which of this is blood and which wine. By the way, this is the second video. If you haven't seen the first one, which is on Fancy at the Theatre, go look at it over here.
I did.
But there's also Fancy, the Arts, on Incognito. That's already live. And there's the next Incognito on its way.
I haven't checked out that one.
Do not forget Story Mode. Do not forget Incogni. And do not forget to dream.
This guy is incredible. But now, excuse me, let me go grab some wine. Red wine.